Nikashiks, Nikaneem Sam Robinson, Nika Gumducks Tanoos Wawa, Yaka Neem Tony Johnson, Yaka Gumducks Hayash Wawa. My name's Sam Robinson, and I know just a little bit of Chinook Wawa as I am learning, you know. But Tony over here, he speaks much or a lot of Wawa, and is very instrumental in you know, keeping our language alive, as well as a lot of our culture that we deal with. My father was Scott Robinson, and his mother was Dora Clark. Her mother was Annie Hawks. Annie Hawks' father was John Hawks, and John Hawks' father was Thomas Huxwell, who was the signer of the 1851 Ansendar Treaty. I always feel that it's very important, you know, especially in Indian country, to know, you know, back those generations, because I know there was a time in history where people wanted us to forget that, but we're not going to forget it. We're always here. So, I was involved with the building of this plank house, you know, from the conception, you know, when they first started working on the village site out there, and I heard that there was a possibility of building a plank house, and it felt good to me, because I can remember I grew up in La Center. I was born out on the Willapa Bay in South Bend, but I grew up in La Center out here. And I can remember in the first grade, I was so pumped to go down on a field trip to Fort Vancouver, because I knew that the Chinook people had hung around at Fort Vancouver and did some trading down there. And in the first grade, when I went to Fort Vancouver, all there was a wall and a well. That was it, you know. So to have a plank house built, and to just think the thought of having school children come into the plank house and learn about the Chinook ways and the Chinook life was just, you know, just so inspiring to me. So I got involved with a steering committee, you know, and just to help raise funds and so forth for the house, and then involved with the building of the house, you know, on another part of the refuge. We pre-assembled all this and put it all together, you know, and then to bring it out here, it was pretty inspiring to be able to do that and have this educational piece. You know, to me, I always like to refer to plank houses, you know, that were up and down this river and so forth, as the first colleges in the Northwest, because that's where a lot of the education would be happening, when people would be sitting around in the winter or around these fires and sharing stories and their knowledges and just the ways of Chinook life, you know. And that was very, very, very important to our people in the past, and is important to our people today. You know, we talk about you know, the Europeans on the other side, and you talk about the Chinook and Chinook people over on this side of the river. We can prove our existence at least 12,000 years on this river. So, and there was a very, very active trade going on down here on this river. The Cathlapotle village, you know, it was a young village. At the time Lewis and Clark came through here, they logged it twice, once going down and once coming back. They actually stopped in the village. That there was 900 people, at least 900 people living in these 14 houses. You know, one of the houses 50 feet wide, 200 feet long, just a huge house. But it was a young village, you know. I mean, that village down there was probably about 400 years old, you know, and people had lived in those houses, those same houses, for over 400 years. You know, that's saying something. You know, people don't live in houses that long nowadays. But we realized that it had to be a young village, because, you know, with 12,000 years of history, where did it come from? You know, and so the archaeologists were always trying to figure out where did the people from Cathlapotle come from, if they were only there for 400 years. And a few years back, I stood in the trench on another part of this refuge. And you could clearly see, you know, the stains from where the posts and the walls were in this trench, from plank houses and the different levels of the years and decades of life, you know, that had gone on throughout there. And, you know, there was fishing weights and different things that were in the walls of the trench as well. But they dated that village back around 2,200 years. So it's good to see our history that's way back then, you know, and still coming to our front, you know. It's the partnerships through, you know, Portland State University and our tribal members and our elders and so forth that actually help us bring this knowledge and analyze all this and help correct some of the things that the Europeans had written about us, you know, and so forth. So this plank house really helped us do that. The other thing that the plank house does for the tribe, Like I said, it brings students in. We have programs throughout the spring and the summer, our artisan residence and Lifeways programs where people can come and learn the different things like such as making tule mats or gathering or just have different talks, for families and students. For instance, the students, we may have a program where the students come in, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then we continue that program on Saturday and Sunday. That way these kids get all pumped up and then they bring their families and their siblings in to learn the same things, So I think this year we had well over 6,000 visitors and a lot of school children. The program was predominantly in the spring, predominantly for young children, in preschool. I mean, not preschool, but, elementary school. And then we found that people wanted to come in the fall. So now we need to figure out more money and more programs for people in the fall. And middle school. Now all of a sudden we got to figure out how to entertain middle school children because they're different. They're not as pumped. Though they're more sedated. They sit there and So we're coming up with programs that get them more involved. We're giving them things to do when they come to the house. Here's your role. Here's what you need to do. Go find go on a hunt and find out why Chinook people did certain things. The Chinook tribe, we're about 2,700 people strong, our Chinook Nation. We represent 5 tribes. We represent the Cathlapotle, Cathlamet, Wakayakum, Willapa, and Lower Chinook. We signed the ancestry Treaty in 1851. The Willapa Bay was to be our reservation. That treaty was taken back to Washington, D.C. and never ratified. Some people say that the reason wasn't ratified is because they got word back in D.C. not to worry about the Chinook, that they were so infected with smallpox and malaria that they wouldn't have to ratify that treaty. But later they discovered that we weren't gone, and they invited us to 2 other treaties, and they tried to move us to Quinault Reservation or the Yakima Reservation off the river, and we refused to do that, and Governor Stevens walked out on us on those treaties. It wasn't right that we had signed that treaty to stay in our own homeland, and they wanted to move us totally off the river. So, anyway, so we talked about journey. What's the tribe up to? What do we do today for culture? Like I said, Tony here has helped keep the Chinook Wawa, our language, alive, and we're trying to share that. Of course, today we're not a federally recognized tribe, so we don't have a real hub of people that a strong hub of people like some other reservation tribes. So we have to disperse our language out and so forth. In the future, we dream of having this hub. Once our restoration gets taken care of and the tribe comes back, because we can really strengthen our culture and strengthen all that it is about being a tribe. I always tell people you can be Chinook or you can be in the Chinook tribe. A tribe means community, and we want to bring those people back as a community. And we would do things, for instance, this house here, in January we would use it for our winter gathering. And winter gathering, it was a traditional time where people would come together and they would share songs and dance, and we would invite friends from other tribes to come into the area, and some of the stories that were told in here, it was taboo to tell them out of season, so you would tell them in the house in that certain season, and the taboo could be something as simple as you're out there telling a story, and if in the wrong time and you get stung by a bee or so forth. It was just kind of the Chinook way of life,